Hi everyone, and welcome to our YouTube channel. I wanted to do this special video because of the intense astrology. For those of you who have been following us for a while, our podcast and other things that we've been doing, we've been talking about this crazy, intense astrology. I'm going to call this little video Mars and Venus Alchemy. But there's a lot of other stuff going on that's really contributing to that. Some of this may be a recap for some of you, but others may be stumbling upon this, so I'm going to give as much information as I can to help us navigate what's going on. Many spiritual people over these past 4 or 5 months have really kind of felt this push me, pull me energy. Being kind of pulled in a certain direction and then being pushed back from that direction. And some people have said they just kind of feel like they're in this whirlwind of energy. And there are a lot of things contributing to that. Many times when we see planets moving from retrograde to direct or from direct to retrograde, we kind of get that feeling, right? We've said we know a planet gets to a certain point. It says, oop, okay, I'm going to retrace my steps. Okay, I want to make sure you got it right. So if we have several of those things happening at a time, right, it starts to feel like we're in this weird kind of agitator, right? Like a washing machine, just kind of turns things and turns things and turns things. So we also have to realize that we are in the middle of the change of an age, right? So again, some of you have been around a while, have heard me say that we are moving from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. And a lot of people say, that already happened in 1960. Well, an age or an aeon is 2,160 years long, thereabouts. So you don't change an age in 1 year. It takes a little bit of time to make that shift and for us to feel that shift. So what we have to think about is imagining that 1960 was 11:59 on the clock and that 2020 was midnight. So those 60 years were the push from the old into the new. Then we have a little bit of recap, and then we move on into the age of Aquarius. So we could kind of look at 2020 to 2080 as midnight to 12:01. So we might notice there are a lot of parallels of things going on. We've mentioned this before, women's rights, human rights, black rights, voting rights. There's all kinds of things that we can see within our government, but also in other environments as well, of kind of this, again, push me, pull me, recapping, are you sure kind of energy. So when we think about it, the age of Pisces was a very spiritual birth, right? We had that, the fisherman of man, the age of Christ. And now that is having to give way to this Aquarian energy, this innovative, very thinking for yourself, humanitarian power to the people. We saw this birth of spirituality in the 60s, where more and more people were concerned about nature, and nature became their church. And they wanted to speak to the big good thing for themselves and not have to have a middleman. And this is where we're pulling apart from that age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, into the age of humanitarianism and a real focus on the environment. But it's kind of like a snap the whip kind of game. You know, if you're that last one, you get snapped. And that's kind of where we are in that last big spiral snap. So things get pretty intense at the back there. You know, you got to run really fast to keep up with the one who's at the front. So there's that whole kind of overview energy. And I'd like to talk first about the Mars and Venus kind of alchemy energy that we have, which is why I have the Temperance card with us, because that's really, again, kind of what we have going on. This, you know, oh my gosh, will I, won't I, can we, can't we, how will we kind of thing. And there's just some really fascinating things going on, but also some intense things. I have 2 pages of notes here so I don't forget anything. And I know you're probably all quite anxious to hear some new things. So let's have a look at what's going on, shall we? All right. So in astrology, when we look at planets and what signs they're in, we think about what strength is there in that configuration, in that partnership, in that union. What is the offer? Then we also think, what's the weakness there? What trouble am I going to run into? Is this going to be comfortable or uncomfortable, or a little bit of both? And when we see these 2 planets, they are both kind of in a really interesting place. So Mars, the planet of like action, direction, get moving. You know, we said this morning it's Martian or get marching. It's very warlike kind of personality, very offensive, right? It wants to head them off at the pass. And it's been in Cancer for a prolonged period of time. Usually Mars stays in a sign about 6 weeks, and it's been hosting Cancer for around 6 months or better. And Cancer is the defense. Defend the home, take care of the children, nurture, you know, cook for, sustenance, you know, stay still. You don't want to go out. You don't want to leave home. We want to march. So you can kind of see how this configuration might create a little bit of conflict or stress around the home. So we see this within our personal lives, stress around our personal home. But we also see this stress in our homeland, too, with things that are going on that we feel are out of our control, but they're bringing this unrest and, again, this kind of offense-defense kind of feeling regarding the home. So we have that going on. And Cancer is ruled by the moon, which is one of the luminaries, one of the light bringers, if you will. Although the moon tends to bring things through dream times or mystical energies or secretive ways, psychic ways, esoteric ways, occult ways. And Mars rules Aries, you know, again, this more kind of aggressive energy. And eventually, when we get to April, Mars is going to move into Leo. So it's going to leave the sign of Cancer, ruled by the moon and the night and the nocturnal and the esoteric and the hidden. And in April, it's going to finally have moved its way into Leo, ruled by the sun. Let's shine some light on there. Let's see for real what's happening. Let's show everybody in the light of day. So there's this kind of thing unfolding in the alchemical process of this transition of Mars from Cancer into Leo. We must also understand that Leo is the king or queen. They're like your majesty of the zodiac. So there might be some real light sun, Leo, shown on these Martian things that pertain to leaders. And again, this is globally, countrywide, community-wide, and, within your personal life. But I think that this could really be exposed in a much larger way, because since Mars has been direct, retrograde, direct, moving around back and forth in this Cancer Leo thing, it's going to have a really interesting configuration. It will be the third pass and the third time Mars will oppose Pluto. So Pluto's moved into Aquarius, and it's going to stay in Aquarius for the next 2 decades. But both Mars and Pluto will be at 3 degrees in opposing signs. I want to make sure it's 2 degrees. 2 degrees in opposing signs. So Mars will be at 2 degrees Leo, and Pluto will be at 2 degrees Aquarius, and there will be this opposition. So, sun energy from Leo shining a light on the aggression of Mars and the leaders and exposing things, and Pluto, who likes to expose things like espionage and deep secrets, is going to be in Aquarius, power to the people. And these two things are going to be in opposition. They're going to have to find a resolution. So April is going to be very, very intense. And the end of April may actually show us something we really need to know. In the meantime, Venus, the planet of love and value and money and the things that we really care about or feel like bring us joy and luxury, she's in Pisces and recently moved into Aries. Venus likes being in Pisces. Not quite the same kind of energy in Aries. So you can see that this is kind of an alchemical process, right? This fiery energy of Mars in this water sign of Cancer, this watery, deep, creative, loving Venus is now in this aggressive sign of Aries, ruled by Mars. So they're not mutual reception, but it is sort of that idea that they're kind of wearing each other's clothes and they're not really happy about it. So Venus in Aries is a tough thing. It motivates Venus, but maybe not in a very pleasant way. Venus may have to say, okay, I got to put on my big girl boots here, and I've got to get things going. So I think we're going to see that pushback or uprising of women and minorities and things like that. I think it's also going to create stress and unrest. And this is an ongoing thing throughout the month of March. And it just seems like such an intense kind of thing. So Mars is going to go direct in Cancer, and it'll take a while for it to get actually moving forward. We'll start to feel more of that energy around the 9th of March. And then that gets going, that energy gets going, that thing gets marching. And we really need to pay attention to this new moon that's coming, because there's going to be a huge cluster of energy in Pisces. Saturn and Neptune are 8 degrees apart in Pisces. Neptune is conjunct the North Node in Pisces. A new moon means that the sun and the moon are in the same sign, Pisces. And Mercury is also in Pisces. So that's a lot of water, and it's going to affect us in a way that we'll be able to deeply connect to our psychic selves and communicate with our spiritual guides and guardians. We might feel much more sensitive, and we will have this kind of pull to leave mundane things and work more on spiritual or group mind things. So we can really start to set our intention for that new moon of this kind of power to the people and like-minded people coming together and doing things like blacking out the month of March, blocking it out, and not feeding corporate greed. All right. But like everything has a light and shadow, the shadow part of Pisces can bring us sadness or almost like a grieving kind of feeling. You know, it's that deep kind of energy. I've also said before that Pisces and the 12th house make us be prisoners, right? We imprison ourselves, we incarcerate ourselves with limitations. I can't do that, I shouldn't do that, oh, that's no good, you know, and we kind of build this barrier for ourselves. It can also make us feel a little bit overwhelmed. So I'm really thinking that giving up the doom scrolling as we move forward might be a really good idea. But at whatever you do, kind of set that intention to use this alchemy in this transformation, to motivate yourself, to empower yourself, to see what you value within yourself and stand up for that, right? So Mars wants to motivate, Cancer wants to nurture, Venus wants to value, and Aries wants to defend. So what do you value and how will you take care of it? And what do you want to take care of and what are you willing to take action for to take care of it? So those things can blend. We just have to be mindful not to fall into these times of despair, not to be overwhelmed by media and crazy, and really get ourselves ready for the rest of this month through April. And I will try to come back and talk more, you know, a couple of times more to just give you that opportunity to understand what's coming. So on the 20th of this month, right? So we're shifting out of the sun being in Aquarius and we're moving into the sun being in Pisces. And on the 20th of this month, Mercury will be at 11 degrees Pisces, and Jupiter will be at 11 degrees Gemini. So those are two mutable signs. One will be in water and one will be in air, so they're going to square each other. So Mercury square Jupiter. Mercury's that little reporter, going to go around and take my notes. I'm going to find out what's going on. I'm going to find out the news, and I'm going to report. And Jupiter in Gemini says, oh, Mercury, what did you find out? How can I expand on that for you? But because it's a square, it might not be the best news, but it's going to be some news. So expect something coming that might be quite shocking, that might put us in shock, or that could really set off a start of a chain of events of things that need to be exposed by that light of the sun and Pluto and Mars and all those things we talked about just a few minutes ago. But Mercury, moves quite quickly, and it'll move on to conjunct Saturn in Pisces a few days later. So this news that we have coming out that's going to start to trigger us with how we feel, Venus, and how we act, Mars. So that Mars and Venus alchemy is going to be going on while we get this news. Oh my goodness, we're going to get this news from Mercury that's going to be broadcast by Jupiter. And we may have to really wrestle with that a little bit. How do we feel about it? How are we going to act upon that? And again, remember, this is globally, within the country, within your community, within yourself. And then Mars, by the 25th, has moved along to conjunct, act as one, with Saturn. And this says, oh, what did you learn? How did you digest that news? Could we sit down now, Saturn, the little chair, can we sit down now and have a little reality check? Just can we sit for a second with this, and can we really see how best to move forward with this now? Let's take a lesson from it. Let's look at the karmic energy that's there. While all this is going on, we know we're gearing up for that Mars-Pluto opposition a little later on. This news is still going to be churning. We still have Uranus at 23 degrees. It's going to be slowly moving forward, and it's going to hit Algol again, but it's already within 2 degrees, so Algol is still activated, and we know that it is. The zombie apocalypse is upon us. People can't even drive with any sort of attention, People are just losing their minds all over the place. So that's going on in the background. And then when we have this big lineup in Pisces for the new moon, right? For the new moon, we have Sun and Moon in Pisces, Mercury in Pisces, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and the North Node is going to be in Pisces for the next 18 months. So we've got all this watery stuff sextiling. Uranus is sextiling those things. So it's trying to help us make the best of the chaos, trying to help us make the best of the news. But this energy is still causing seismic things. This Uranus in Taurus near Algol. So when we think of all this energy that is now piled up in a water sign, we want to focus on rain events or ice events, snow events, ocean stuff, information coming with tsunamis and oceanic activity, water in general. When I describe the water signs, I say that Cancer is the beautiful clear lake. You can walk out up to your neck and you can still make out the details of your toe ring. And Scorpio is the ocean. We don't know what's down there. And Pisces is kind of like the river. Sometimes it's just a little babbling brook that talks to you and you can understand it. And other times it bursts its banks and just, floods everything. So we are going to need to pay attention to flooding, excess rain, seismic activity, oceanic seismic activity, and just figure out what it is we're going to do to keep our clarity and to keep our intention and attention heightened, right? The North Node also says, it looks like the headphones, right? With little earphones, and it says, what are you reaching for, right? So Virgo is where the South Node is, and that's kind of like the toolbox. It says, here, attention to detail. I could be a little nitpicky, but I want you to clean things up, and I want you to get focused, and I want you to try to calm your nerves a little bit. Here's your tools. And Pisces, the North Node, says, what are we aspiring to? What are we using those tools for? What are we reaching for? What is this about? What can we gain from this? So, if we look at that lineup of Saturn, Neptune, Node, Sun, Moon, Mercury, all in Pisces, we can think of that too as a big marker for trying to let go and reset from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. When the moon is new, the sun and moon will be at 9 degrees Pisces, and Jupiter will be at 12 degrees Gemini. So this is also a square. And it wants to say, again, how are you going to use the news that comes on the 20th that you refined on the 25th? How are you going to use that alchemy of that Mars in Cancer and that Venus in Aries? How are you going to reconcile those things? And how are you going to use this information to set an intention, to raise your vibration, to lift yourself towards that North Node energy? How are you going to use this news in a positive way? So I think we have a big opportunity here, and we are going to change things up a little bit in the Academy of the Occult, and we are going to do our new moon ritual actually on the night of the new moon, which is the 26th of February. And then we'll have our next class, the moon through your natal chart, on the 29th. So that'll be Saturday the 29th. We'll have the next class. So Wednesday evening, the 26th. It'll be March 1st. It's not leap year. It'll be March 1st. So on Wednesday the 26th, we'll do even I've lost my head. We'll do our new moon ritual in the Academy. And on March 1st, we'll have our next moon through your natal chart class. But I want you, whether you're in the Academy or not, to think about this seed of intention. This new moon is really, really so Piscean, right? Saturn, Neptune, North Node, Mercury, Sun and Moon in Pisces. Calling out your spiritual side, calling to your higher self, asking for you to reach, to think, to inspire, right? To create. All the things that you could think about for Saturn, like learning and grounding, and Neptune creating and being blissfully spiritual. The North Node reaching and aspiring towards Piscean energy. The Sun lighting the way for you to connect to your emotions, to the depths of your heart. The moon, very psychic energy, and Pisces, a very deeply spiritual sign. And Mercury, wanting you to communicate with spirit. So this new moon has a lot of energy packed in it. And while that's happening, we still have to be mindful of that Al Ghul and not get triggered. And we have to be mindful of how we're going to use this alchemy of Venus being in fire and Mars being in water. What are we going to make with all of these ingredients? So it could be a wonderful time for healing, or it could be a time of destruction, depending on how we use those tools. So if you allow yourself to be overwhelmed with sadness, if you allow yourself to be overtaken by aggression and anxiety, if you allow yourself to feel wounded and grieve, then this could be a very negative, disruptive time, this Mars-Venus time. We've all felt that unrest. But if you use this for your highest good, you could make some big strides here. Focus on what you value and how you want to defend what you value. Venus in Aries. Focus on what you want to nurture and what you want to take care of, and allow Mars also to give you that strength to care for it, to defend it. So we really have, that Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times, happening right now. Mars, Venus, alchemy. Tons of things lining up in Pisces. Pluto in Aquarius for 2 decades. And Jupiter in Gemini. If you know your chart at all, see where 11 degrees, 12 degrees Gemini is. Jupiter's working to expand that. And when those squares happen, you might see activity or news in that sector for yourself, depending on the house that it's in. I'll talk more about that kind of stuff in the Moon Through Your Natal Chart class in the Academy of the Occult. All right, so if you're not a YouTube member, check it out. For $29.99 a month, you get a class. You get the new moon and full moon and Sabbath rituals every month. If there is a Sabbath, obviously there's only 8, not 12. You will get story time with Anton, which is going to probably stick with a Welsh Celtic motif there. You will get a guided meditation, which right now I put up Auric Alchemy, because it kind of goes along with the energy that we have available to us. You will also get a free 1-card reading on our Magical Monday podcast, and you get $5 back in karma points that you can spend at the store, or you could spend it in our online store, or you can spend it by phone. So it's really only cost you $24.99 because you get the $5 back in karma points. But so you get a class, rituals, guided meditation, story time, and the 1-card reading. So I will see you soon. We have a lot going on. Also, we announced this morning that on February 28th, we are going to have a community day at the shop. Reiki by donation, or Reiki share, tea, some kind of refreshments, maybe some guided meditation, just a way to stay distracted from muggledom and shut down the internet for the day, right? If you're not home alone doom scrolling, you could be focused on being part of your community. So if you want to know more about that, you could watch our Magical Monday podcast from earlier today, which today is the 17th. All right, so new moon ritual on the 26th. Next Moon Through Your Natal Chart class on March 1st. I hope everybody's okay. Replay this. Think about what I'm saying. Use it to your advantage. Take the power from it. Take the strength from it. Don't let it be a weak point that triggers you into being paralyzed, because now is the time to get moving. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Peace and bright blessings.